How did Satisfy Running build a $12 million a year activewear brand? And how did they do it off of the back of targeting a very niche type of customer? How can you do this as well? Because Satisfy Running didn't build a brand by being the cheapest. They didn't build a brand by having the most high-tech product. They didn't build a brand simply by creating viral content and UGC content to be able to drive traffic. They did it by understanding first and foremost what type of customer that they were going after. And they were even targeting the generic running customer. So even within their niche, they understood first and foremost that it wasn't just about targeting the running customer, but a very specific type of customer. And what we can learn as a activewear startup brand is that niching down in 2026, going into 2027, is no longer just simply about finding a slice in the market. The game has become much more difficult. So what can we learn about Satisfy that allows us not just to copy their look, but to understand the lesson that Satisfy's success has to teach us? Without further ado, my name is Shadi Adada, and this is exactly what we're going to be discussing in today's episode. I built thousands of activewear brands over the last 10 years through my company FittDesign. And they've learned a thing or two about how the industry has progressed, how we've gone from the influencer-led marketing of Gymshark in the mid-2010s to the more community-driven brands that we see today. So if you've wondered how you can set up your own activewear brand and target your niche customer, and to do it effectively, this is going to be the episode for you. Number one is that Satisfy didn't just simply target runners. They actually targeted a very specific type of runner. And this is the first challenge that any activewear brand is going to face. In a crowded market, what's going to distinguish you from brands A, B, C is the connection that you make with your customer. If you have a very specific and narrow problem that you're solving and your focus is on that, chances are you're going to be better positioned to solve that problem for your customer than a brand that is spread thin on a variety of different problems. But what happens when many people are trying to solve the same problem? What do you do there? Well, you take a twist on it, because Satisfy Running wasn't just looking at the typical type of clean-cut running aesthetic that we've seen over the years from Nike, from Adidas, from New Balance, and just taking that. They built a sort of counterculture, a rebellious version of the modern running customer that we know and love, and they created a tribe or community around that. Because when a customer is buying product from you, especially from Satisfy, they're not just buying running shorts and a running singlet. They're essentially buying into the lifestyle of what Satisfy is redefining as the modern runner. The modern runner is not only focused on how many miles they can run. They're focused on the type of person that they are outside of their run. And their photography, their products, their messaging, all of that is catered towards tapping into this counter-culture or counter-popular type of aesthetic of the modern runner that Satisfy sees. So the goal here for you as a startup is take the customer avatar that you might want to go after, and you might see other brands going after, and redefine that customer avatar in a way that makes contextual sense for the year and the market that you're in. Number two is that Satisfy made performance feel more cultural. So when brands focus on performance, they immediately go into the technical features of their clothing. They talk about the GSM of the fabric. They talk about whether it's a warp knit or it's a weft knit. They talk about the anti-odor, the antimicrobial properties that they're implying into the garment. They talk about the zippers, the pockets, all of the different elements that make a garment functional. But what they don't understand is that performance, first and foremost, needs to feel cultural. It needs to have a reason that is rooted in practicality day to day. Because the product, beyond just the list of technical features, actually needs to work. That lightweight singlet needs to be UPF resistant, it needs to promote airflow, it needs to be anti-odor, but it also needs to be something that you can put into your gym bag after the workout, something that you can wear on a run club and feel confident and comfortable in it. something that you can put on and you can store your phone, your AirPods, your daily essentials as you go for your run, and then you grab a coffee afterwards. And Satisfy knew how to take the functional features of their clothing and tie them to the cultural relevance and the cultural activities that the actual customer was performing on a day-to-day basis. And the way that you can do that is look at your customer's day-to-day and specifically the activity that they're playing. If you're a racket sports brand, perhaps you're a pedal brand, you look at the different actions that a typical pedal player would go through as they leave their house, get to the court, arrive in the court, how they warm up, and what are the different performance features that your garment would need to have in order to promote that cultural impact, that cultural activity of playing pedal, of running with other people, of running in the morning, in that early morning run. This is how you make performance feel cultural, and you go beyond making it feel technical. Because when performance is cultural, it becomes a lot easier to digest for the average customer. Number 3 is that Satisfy also made their products expensive, but they did it for a reason. When we talk about performance apparel, simply increasing the price and using the price to justify why product is more premium ultimately is never going to convince someone that your product is worth it. Yes, you can push marketing dollars. Yes, you can create influencer seeding campaigns. But at the end of the day, if your product doesn't perform, it doesn't do the activity that it is intended to do, it's going to fall flat. Because we've discussed this on previous episodes that in performance apparel, that premium needs proof. And this is what Satisfy did exceptionally well. Yes, they priced their products in a premium category, yet they designed their products, the fabrics, the construction, the fit, the detailing, the packaging, to essentially satisfy that premium price point. So when you receive the Satisfy product, you're doing 2 things. Number 1, you're looking at the price, and because you've bit the bullet, you're looking for reasons to justify why the price is worth it. And because they're making it very obvious through the product, through the details, the construction, when you compare their product side by side with another competitor's product, you're immediately linking those 2 things together that, it's worth it because of this. This is the power of actually premium pricing, but actually being able to deliver on that premium price point. Take a lesson out of Satisfy's book. When you price premium, look for optimal and look for many reasons and many opportunities to prove your price point to the customer, whether it's through the photography, through the packaging, through the customer experience, in the product itself, the fabric, the technology that you use, the small details and touches that you employ. Number 4 is that Satisfy didn't water down their brand in order to continue to fuel and promote growth. This is something that a lot of brands are faced with when they're trying to grow from that small, medium business into a full-fledged apparel brand with multiple collections every single year. You start to get more consumer interest, but you might even start to get VC interest, investor interest. You might get partners coming from outside. What happens there is then there becomes a pressure internally in the company to grow the next quarter, to hit your new revenue figures for the year. And what happens there is that you start to look at the products that are performing well and you double and triple down. That can work exceptionally well until a moment. But if you continue to recycle these same old tricks consistently, what happens is this is when you get labeled with a lack of innovation. This is when your products become stale. This is when your products become oversold. This is when your products become no longer exclusive. So what brands end up doing is they start adding new products to fill in the gaps. And they add new products simply to continue to keep the hype train going. And if you don't understand your brand at its core, you start to add products that don't push the story forward. If you look at your brand as a storybook, each page should be consistent and should build on the story. But if you take the plot line and you demolish it on chapter 3, you've built up these characters, you've built up this arc, and then you demolish it, then that's a recipe for disaster. And this is what brands that water down their brand do, is they take what made their brand special and then they start adding things to it. They start to add and add and add, and eventually you lose what made the brand so special in the first place. And Satisfy since the beginning has consistently gone back to their core, created new products, new SKUs, new campaigns, but that aligned with that rebellious runner core demographic. Yes, it might be at the cost of more growth, but it's that small and calculated and very communal or community focused aesthetic that continues to make the brand feel authentic. Number 5 is that Satisfied made community feel earned, not forced. And this is something that a lot of brands, especially some of the bigger brands that have a larger budget, they'll force community down our throats as if we have a lack of understanding that we can see something that's inauthentic when we see it. You can just tell a manufactured UGC or influencer campaign for a big brand that is trying to make the brand feel more tribal or more rooted in a specific community versus something which has this authenticity. It's a grassroots grown community feature of that brand, whether it's a run club, whether it's a coffee meetup, whether it's a strength training sort of built together. All of those elements, if they come in from the ground up, if they touch the actual core customer and how they want to interact with the brand at its core. If you think of early days of Gymshark, where their ability to tap into the YouTube stars of the day, people who had 50, 60,000 subscribers, we're talking about the beginning of YouTube, the people that were being watched for if it fits your macros, for their daily vlogging, for their day in the life, for their daily food recipes. It's that grassroots, communal, ground up build that really makes an impact. And this is what Satisfy has been doing phenomenally well in the running niche. You know for a fact that the people who are being featured are about what they say that they're about. And they have a very close tie to their customer base at taking feedback, connecting with them, featuring them in their actual images to be able to continue to create that community-led, but also authentically community-led focus, which is something that a lot of startups and well-established brands fail to do because they have a lack of authenticity. They manufacture this aesthetic. Number 6 is that Satisfy didn't build their brand around 1 or 2 viral products. They built their brand around a viral language. They understood first and foremost why their products were going viral and why they were gaining the appeal that they were. They reversed engineered that success and then they applied that into future products, future collections. Those pieces that created the initial success built a language. They built an alphabet and they used that alphabet to build the language and they used that language to build future success. This is something essential for a brand, is you need to understand when something works, why did it work? If you just look at a product in isolation, it makes it very difficult to replicate that success. It's a reason why Amazon new brands succeed for a while. They may sell of a specific product, but if they try to dupe another product, they simply don't understand why the first product succeeded, and they may misunderstand or misidentify the reason to dupe another product. So Satisfy consistently understood the reason behind the success of their products. They reverse engineered that and they implemented it into future campaigns, future website builds, their content, and most importantly, their product. So they might see customers tend to really like our products where the technical features, where the running is implemented in our shorts is front and center. Then they understand why that is. Oh, this might be because when I wear these shorts, I'm signaling to the world that I'm a runner. And if I'm signaling to the world that I'm a runner, I feel like I'm identifying as what I am. And that makes me feel comfortable. That makes me feel safe. That makes me feel proud, confident, whatever it is. And then they take that element and then they tie it into future products. Perhaps it's a singlet where they identify again what a runner needs, how a runner runs, how they interact with their run, their Apple Watch, and they implement that back into their product through the design, through the functionality. And if you guys are curious how you can succeed, take these lessons that we've outlined today and how you can build your own successful brand. It starts off with a great product. And if you're looking to build your next great product, then you can check the link in the description to apply to work with us one-on-one. We can literally take you from an idea to a physical product in under 30 days. And Once you set your inquiry, we'll get back to you within literally 5 minutes with a personalized production roadmap on what you can do to take that idea and make it happen. Guys, and I say this from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Fit Design TV. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until next week's episode, stay awesome.